Saudara, serangan Rusia terhadap Ukraina sudah berjalan selama kurang lebih 1 bulan. Presiden Ukraina juga memberikan pernyataan untuk meminta dukungan dari internasional. Tentu perhatian kini tertuju kepada khususnya negara-negara Eropa, termasuk Inggris, khususnya menjelang pertemuan G20 di mana Indonesia akan menjadi tuan rumah. Kita akan membahas bagaimana sikap dunia, sikap negara-negara terhadap eskalasi serangan di Ukraina. Sudah bersama kami Duta Besar Inggris untuk Indonesia, British Ambassador to Indonesia and Timor Leste, His Excellency Owen Jenkins. Thank you for having this interview with me, Your Excellency.
Not at all. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm going to start right about what President Zelensky has stated. He criticized of NATO and its member, of course, for refusing a no-fly zone after the alliance announced it would not intervene by air or land for fear of getting, conflict with Russia. But do you think that President Zelensky has the right reason to feel that way by the alliance, including United Kingdom?
So I think President Zelensky is heroic. I think that his leadership of his people against this illegal and unprovoked Russian attack is exemplary. I think he's done a fantastic job. The United Kingdom and Ukraine stand very closely together. Our leaders speak extremely regularly, and President Zelensky has praised the UK response. I think in terms of the question he's raised about a no-fly zone, we worry that enforcing a no-fly zone would lead to direct conflict between NATO and Russia. And the risks of escalation from such a confrontation would be extremely high. And the potential consequences of that would be potentially very, very serious, not just for NATO and Russia, but importantly for Ukraine and indeed for the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. By talking about that, I know the UK government has, imposed Russian sanctions on Russian banks, companies, and stuff. So I think there is still the pressure to do more, to tackle the flow of Russian money going to the UK. The issue has been raised. So if NATO and also United Kingdom is not going to do anything about the no-fly zone, how about more policies from United Kingdom on the government side about this sanctions, about, restricted on Russian money flow into the United Kingdom?
Yeah, so you're quite right. And we are already doing a huge amount. We've introduced the toughest pack of sanctions that we've ever introduced in our history, and we're determined to do more. So just 10 days ago on the, I think, 15th of March, we introduced a new law which will allow us to impose even tougher sanctions. And it's already working. We've hit over £300 billion worth of Russian assets. That's more than any other nation. Okay. Russian banks with assets of over £348 billion have been removed from the SWIFT system, and the central bank in Moscow cannot access that international payment system now. The UK has prevented over 3 million Russian companies, including Gazprom, from raising money in the UK.
What about granting more visas for Ukrainian refugees? I'm aware that humanitarian activists has asked your government to do more, to grant more visas for the Ukrainian refugees comparing to other European countries. Any follow-up?
Absolutely. No, this is hugely important. And the UK is one of the biggest humanitarian donors to the Ukrainian crisis. So the UK has set up new systems to ensure that we receive and welcome Ukrainians who have been displaced. We've set up a new scheme whereby British people can offer a room in their home to Ukrainian people and families fleeing their country. And the generosity has been amazing, with over 150,000 people offering a room.
It has been shown
within the first few hours. We've also set up new visa schemes to ensure that Ukrainians can come to the UK, and we've reprioritized our border service and our immigration resources so that those applications, that process takes priority.
Okay, so you mentioned about sending more humanitarian aids, but I haven't heard about sending troops, not only to the borders, but also, to the cities that have been suffered from the attack. Is that one of the follow-up targets to help more?
So we're not sending troops into Ukraine from the UK. And again, that would put the UK directly in confrontation with Russian forces, and the risks of escalation.
And you wouldn't have that.
I don't think that would be good for anybody. I think the risks of escalation are too high for Ukraine and for the world. But we are doing an enormous amount to support the Ukrainian armed forces directly. We've been sending anti-tank weapons. We've agreed to send advanced anti-aircraft weapons. We've trained in the past over 20,000 members of the Ukrainian armed forces.
And it's been a great help for the Ukrainian military.
So President Zelensky says, and we're really proud that among our NATO partners, we are one of the leading countries in that area, because the Ukrainian forces are behaving heroically and they deserve our support.
A hot topics, I would say, because, you know, the internationals has been pressing about this. You know that our country, Indonesia, is going to host the G20 summit this year. And the president, Russia's president, President Putin, has confirmed by her ambassador, but has confirmed that President Putin is going to attend the summit. But there are also countries that ask Indonesia not to invite Russia. Well, Indonesia has ensured, you know, all members of G20, including Russia, to attend the forum. I'm just wondering, in these situations, what would United Kingdom react to this kind of escalations? I mean, like, as a member of G20, does the United Kingdom have any objections of President Putin attending to G20?
So look, I still remember when we found out that Indonesia would be chairing the G20 this year, we were all tremendously excited. Putin decided to invade another country illegally without provocation. That's a huge curveball. It's a huge distraction from that agenda. And of course, the G20 will need to address it. So the G7 made a statement last night, as you may have seen, saying that there can be no business as usual in any international forum, that we need to...
Is a recent update?
So this was just from last night, this G7 statement.
Yeah.
So, and that, I think we've been very clear, there can be no business as usual in any international forum. Every forum needs to find a way to deal with what is just a horrific violation of international law and of the norms which underpin important groupings like the G20.
So do you think if President Putin is still going to attend the G20 summit, what would be the predictions, the reactions of the European countries, especially from the United Kingdom?
Let's see. I mean, the summit isn't until November. We've seen just in the last month how quickly the world can change in a very short period of time. So let's see.
Okay. So can you give me any follow-ups update about, you mentioned about one of the agreement that G7 has concluded, one of the conclusion, but if you can give me any other updates about what the summit has brought up into this discussion in Brussels?
So the G7 has been really united on this, and I think one of the few good things to come out of this is international unity. And it's not just the G7. I think sometimes this is portrayed as a sort of G7 or West versus Russia, but it's not. 141 countries voted in the United Nations General Assembly to condemn Russia. In terms of the G7 itself, obviously that's primarily an economic forum. So the response through the G7 has been about how we can use the countries of the G7 and their economic weight to defund Putin's war machine, to prevent him getting the sorts of funds that he needs to keep.
So it's more about the sanctions.
It's more about the sanctions. It's more about the economic pressure, so that he doesn't have the money to buy shells and to fund his machine, which is, you know, killing innocent people, shelling civilian areas, attacking mosques, attacking hospitals in Ukraine. So the G7 will continue to do that. And I think the wider international community will stay united in condemning this horrendous breach of international law.
I see. I think that's all for this interview. Thank you very much, Your Excellency Owen Jenkins, the British Ambassador for Indonesia and Timor Leste. Thank you for your time. Reaksi respon internasional, terutama juga dari negara Eropa seperti Inggris yang baru saja kami wawancara, Duta Besar menyatakan bahwa fokus terhadap sanksi secara ekonomi ini yang menjadi fokus dari Inggris dan juga negara-negara Eropa untuk kemudian bagaimana memutus cara bagi Presiden Rusia untuk melancarkan invasinya. Tentu harapan yang terbaik adalah bagaimana kondisi kembali seperti semula, perang tidak melebar dan Ukraina bisa kemudian penduduknya bisa kembali lagi ke tanah mereka untuk mendapatkan kebebasan dan juga kemerdekaan yang mereka berhak untuk mendapatkan hal tersebut. Nitia Anisa, Kompas TV, Jakarta.